My hands were still shaking when I heard the sound under my bunk. A wet, rattling breath, too small to belong to anything that should be on my station. I had just come off an 18-hour shift hauling scrap off a dead freighter, and every muscle in my body wanted sleep, not this. I dropped to my knees anyway and looked under the bed. Two eyes stared back at me, gold, huge, and full of fear. A small creature, no bigger than a house cat, curled in the shadows. Its scales were deep blue, almost black, and its wings were folded against its ribs at a wrong angle. One of its legs bent the wrong way. Dark blood pooled beneath it on my floor. "Please," a voice said. Not out loud, inside my head, like pressure behind my eyes. "Please don't let them find me." I fell back against the wall so hard my elbow cracked against the metal frame. For a second, I thought exhaustion had finally broken something in my mind. "You're talking," I whispered. In my head. "I'm sorry," the voice said, trembling. "I didn't mean to reach you. I'm scared. Please." Every rule on this station told me to call it in. Unidentified life form. Immediate report. Quarantine protocol. Instead, I reached under the bed with both hands and pulled the shaking little body into my lap. It didn't fight me. It just curled against my chest and shivered like it hadn't been warm in days. "What are you?" I breathed. "Sithrai," it said. "Not what. Who. I am Sithrai. Please. They are still looking for me." I patched the wounded leg myself, using the med kit from my locker, my hands steadier than I expected. Over the next hour, in broken pieces pushed gently into my thoughts, Sithrai told me what she was. Veiltir, she called her people. Ancient, powerful, feared across half the settled systems for their silence and their sharp, cold judgment. A species old enough to remember when humans were still learning to build fire, let alone starships. She told me she had been born wrong. Not broken in body, but in the eyes of her own kind. Broken in a worse way. She felt things. Fear, grief, the pain of others, echoing inside her like a struck bell. Among the Veiltir, that gift was called a flaw, a weakness to be removed before it could spread through the bloodline. So they came for her. She ran. She found a smuggler's broken wormhole path and threw herself through it, half dead, crashing into the scrap field my station had been quietly picking apart for months. And now she was here, bleeding on my floor, whispering into my mind like I was the only safe place left in the galaxy. I held her tighter and made a promise I had no right to make. Not on my watch. For 3 days, I kept her hidden. I brought food from the mess hall in my jacket pockets. I told my roommate, Ellie Dawson, that I had a stomach bug so she wouldn't ask questions about the extra meals or the strange sounds at night. Sithrai slept curled against my ribs, healing slowly, her small telepathic voice growing steadier every hour. She told me about her home, a world of high stone spires and cold winds, where hatchlings who felt too much were quietly taken away and never spoken of again. She had never even seen another hatchling survive what she had. I told her about Earth, about storms and oceans and dogs that loved you even when you didn't deserve it. She liked that story best. She said her people did not understand loyalty the way we did. Loyalty, to the Veiltir, was a chain of command, not a choice. On the 4th day, the alarms went off. I was in the corridor when the whole station lit up red, and Captain Nora Ellison's voice cut through every speaker at once. "Unknown vessel approaching. All crew to stations." I ran, Sithrai wrapped tight against my chest under my jacket, her small claws digging into my shirt. When I reached the command deck, the main screen already showed it, a long black ship, sleek and silent, hanging just beyond our outer marker, like a blade someone had decided not to swing yet. A voice came through our comms, flat and cold, translated through some machine that stripped away every trace of warmth. "You harbor stolen property, a flawed hatchling, station designation unknown. Surrender it immediately. This is not a request." Every head on the deck turned toward me. I felt the blood leave my face. Sithrai pressed harder against my chest, and I heard her voice inside my mind, so small it barely reached me at all. They found me. Captain Ellison didn't even glance my way. She stood with her arms crossed, staring straight at the screen like the ship outside was nothing more than a delayed cargo shipment. "She's not property," Ellison said. "She is Veiltir," the voice answered. "Veiltir law governs her." "She's on a human station," Ellison said, "under human protection. You want her, you go through every person standing here." I looked around the deck. Engineers, cargo haulers. A young technician named Owen Pratt, who had barely finished his first year on the station. Nobody had given an order, yet every single one of them was quietly moving toward their post, standing straighter, like something unspoken had passed between them all at once. The voice on the comms paused. "You would risk conflict over a hatchling that is not your species. She offers you nothing." "That's the part you don't understand," Ellison said. "She doesn't have to offer us anything." The silence after that stretched long enough that I could hear my own heartbeat. I held Sithrai closer, feeling her small body trembling against mine, and for the first time since I had found her under my bed, I let myself believe we might actually win this. Then the black ship's weapons lit up. The deck exploded into motion. Someone shouted a warning. Red lights swept across every console, and a shrill proximity alarm screamed through the corridors. I grabbed the edge of a console just to stay upright, as the whole station shuddered under a warning shot fired close enough to rattle the walls. "Hold position," Ellison shouted over the chaos. "Nobody fires unless I say so." "I am giving one final warning," the voice said. "Surrender the hatchling, or this station will be considered a hostile actor." My mouth went dry. Sithrai's claws dug so deep into my shirt I felt them scrape skin. "I'm sorry," she whispered into my mind, her voice cracking with something that felt almost like grief. "I never wanted this for you. I should go. I should surrender myself before they hurt anyone because of me." "No," I said out loud, loud enough that a few heads turned. "You are not walking out there." Ellison stepped closer to the comm panel, her voice dropping into something low and dangerous, the kind of calm that comes right before people do something reckless and mean it completely. "You want to open fire on an unarmed salvage station over one small hatchling," she said. "Go ahead, but every ship in this sector will know what you did here within the hour, and every human colony from here to the outer rim will remember it a lot longer than that. We don't forget, and we don't forgive easily either." Another long pause stretched across the comms. I realized I was holding my breath, my arms wrapped so tightly around Sithrai that she made a small sound of protest. "You would start a war," the voice said, quieter now, almost uncertain, over a single hatchling. "We already did," Ellison said, "the moment you pointed a weapon at my crew." For a moment nothing happened. The black ship sat there, weapons still glowing, and I swear the whole station held its breath together. Then, slowly, the glow faded. The ship rotated, unhurried, deliberate, and without another word on the comms, it broke away from our marker and vanished into the dark. Nobody moved for a long moment. Then the deck erupted into noise, relief spilling out of people in shaky laughter, and a few muttered prayers. Ellison finally turned to look at me, her expression softer than I expected. "You want to explain the extra passenger," she said, nodding toward the shape hidden under my jacket. I pulled back the fabric, just enough to let Sithrai peek out. Her gold eyes blinked at the light, wide with disbelief, still trembling from everything that had happened. "They're leaving," she said inside my mind, like she still couldn't quite believe it. "Why would you do this? I'm nothing to you. I'm not even your species." I felt the whole deck watching me, waiting. I thought about the wounded creature under my bed 4 days ago, and the promise I had made without thinking twice. "You whispered please," I said softly, more to her than to anyone else in the room. "That's really all it takes with us." She didn't have words for that. Instead, I felt something warm and wordless settle behind my ribs, gentle as a held breath finally released. That was 4 years ago. Sithrai is bigger now. Her wings finally fit her small frame, and she has become something between a mascot and a menace around the station, chasing loose cargo carts down the corridors and startling every new arrival half to death the first time they see her curled up asleep on the mess hall table. There's still a small scorch mark on the wall near the kitchen from the first time she sneezed too hard, and nobody has ever had the heart to fix it. Her own people called her a flaw, a weakness to be erased before it could spread. We call her family. And if the Veilteer ever decide to come looking for her again, they will find every single person on this station standing exactly where we stood the first time, without a single order needed to put us there.